Hello, and welcome to the next in the Effective Writing Center series of workshops, and this will be our last until the fall. I'm Dan Gallagher, Director of the EWC. Today's workshop is titled Academic Honesty is the Best Policy of Research, and is being presented by Ed O'Donnell and myself with material prepared by Ryan Shepard. Ed O'Donnell is a reference and instruction librarian at UMUC. He has been with the university for over 10 years. Ed also teaches Introduction to Research, a one-credit course that familiarizes students with the research process, as well as the resources and services offered by the UMUC library. Ryan Shepard is also a reference and instruction librarian in the UMUC library. And I'm Dan Gallagher, Director of Research and Writing Services at UMUC, where I've been responsible for the Effective Writing Center and Libs 150 Introduction to Research for over 6 years. To ask a question during the broadcast, please use the chat feature in YouTube next to the viewing window. This workshop, like all our workshops, will be archived for future viewing in the Effective Writing Center's Google Plus community. And now, let's begin tonight's workshop. Research and writing, they go together like chocolate and peanut butter. Most of your academic and professional needs, the two are inextricable from one another, which is why the library and the Effective Writing Center have teamed up for this presentation. While it is convenient to think of two separate processes, in practice, your research and your writing are bound up with one another, dependent upon one another, each informing and shaping the other. To successfully conduct your research, you need to know what your writing goals are. And for our purposes today, we're using a very broad definition of writing to include not only essays or research papers, but PowerPoints and oral presentations. Having a clear idea of what you need to accomplish guides the kind of research you need to conduct. The sources you find then inform the content of your writing. As you write and review your writing, you'll find new research needs to answer outstanding questions, fill in gaps, or challenge assertions. When you conduct that additional research, you'll reshape your writing process, and so on. Research and writing are not just about creating a product, but are learning activities in and of themselves. Before we get too far into the processes, let's address the elephant in the room. Why can't I just Google what I need?
Well, Dan, a lot of useful information is available via Google, but it's important to distinguish what isn't useful. In the context of college-level research, the most critical element missing from Google search results is free access to the full text of scholarly and trade journal articles, and to detailed company and industry reports and financial information used for business research. The UMUC library pays for access to over 100 different subscription-only databases packed with information useful for research or assignments that are freely accessible to any enrolled student.
Okay, Ed, but what about Google Scholar? It has Scholar right there in the name, so that must be a good option for scholarly work, right?
Well, it can be, but it's important to remember that Google only includes a small number of the total number of scholarly publishers in Scholar, and discloses very little information about what the scope of the collection actually is. If you use only Scholar, you're likely to miss useful articles that are available to you via subscription databases. There are also many descriptions of articles in Scholar that are not linked to their full text, again, which can be freely available to you via library databases or through the UMBC Library's Document Express service. Document Express allows you to request, at no cost for you, the full text of any articles not available through our database subscriptions.
Isn't this kind of research only necessary for school? Why would a student need to know this for the real world?
Well, you will likely be expected to do research in your professional career, and now is a chance to learn the process. Many professional jobs will require you to use articles, books, and other research materials to learn about topics that are unfamiliar to you. The ability to find high-quality information, to think about it analytically and critically, and to make informed decisions and recommendations based on what you've learned is critical to many employers. Being involved with the literature of a profession, reading and creating it, is often critical to staying engaged and growing professionally. In many professions, new information and important developments are transmitted primarily through their literature, scholarly and trade journals, draft versions of articles circulated among peers, and other writing. Being engaged with the literature in your field can be critical to staying effectively informed. Writing it, that is, reporting on important or innovative work that you are doing personally, can in some cases be important to increasing your visibility to potential colleagues and employers, and to opening other doors professionally. In some cases, as among university teaching faculty, publishing in professional journals is mandatory for retention or promotion. Learning more about the details of work in a profession can help you define your career path. Most professions have multiple possible career paths within them, many of which are not immediately obvious to people just entering them. Paying attention to the professional literature of your field and engaging with it meaningfully as a student researcher can help you learn about potential job opportunities and focus you on the skills and experience required to take advantage of them. Research skills are transferable to critical, non-work related decision making. The research skills are also worth honing for their usefulness in everyday non-work tasks, like understanding a medical problem, comparing options for expensive purchases, and informing yourself about complex political issues. The ability to find reliable, authoritative, information-rich resources and analyze them effectively and efficiently can save you time, money, and trouble.
Thanks, Ed. So just to reiterate, even though the context might change, the skills are valuable and transferable. I'd say the same thing about writing. Chances are, unless your career is in academia, you won't be writing many essays or research papers as such after school. You will, however, need to be able to synthesize information from a variety of sources, make arguments and provide evidence for your position, and in general, communicate clearly with your colleagues. It might change. That is, you will no longer be writing to demonstrate that you've mastered course material, but the skills you need to practice transfer from one situation to the other. Being effective in practicing and transferring those skills largely rests on adopting a particular perspective on research and writing, that no one operates in a vacuum. The sources that you use rely upon other sources, which rely upon other sources, and so on. That's why you see all those long lists of citations at the end of the articles that you find. When you research and write, you are essentially entering into a much larger ongoing conversation about the topic, what Kenneth Bruffy, borrowing from philosopher Michael Oakeshott, called the conversation of mankind. As with any conversation, you need to listen to what others are saying before you can determine how best to contribute yourself. Ed, how would you recommend someone begin getting a sense of the larger conversation?
Well, I'd say the main components are time and reading. Give yourself a good amount of time before you begin writing to do some searching and to skim over a wide variety of articles about your topic, reading those that look highly relevant to your topic carefully. If those articles have bibliographies, look at them as a sort of a helpful guide to other useful things to search out in learning about what you're researching. In both college assignments and doing research in a professional context, most topics you're likely to be focusing on are complex, so real effort on your part is required. Look to identify strong threads of opinion on current or controversial subjects. Who is advocating for or against related positions, what their interests or influences are, and what the potential competing or conflicting outcomes may be. Try to get a rounded picture of the important voices and opinions on your topic if they exist, what its real or potential importance and impact are, and what the current state of it is, and how it's likely to develop in the near future. The research portion of a project can't be just an afterthought, and you can't expect to be able to get good results without treating learning about a topic as a central part of the writing process.
And don't forget that a lot of background reading can be included in the materials within your course. Once you have a sense of the landscape, you can plot your research path more knowledgeably. That means, for the most part, getting more specific. As you progress towards a degree and as you grow professionally, you're less and less likely to be simply writing about a topic than you are to be arguing for a particular position or posing a specific problem in need of a solution. That kind of inquiry requires a different philosophical and practical stance compared to performing simple searches for information. First, you need to think about why you're conducting this research. You might be used to trying to find sources that will support your own views, or even just finding quotes that will fit into what you've already written. Instead, frame the research process as a learning process in and of itself. Leave your assumptions behind and dive into the information. Let the information shape your argument rather than the other way around. That means starting with a question rather than an assertion. Ed, can you tell us how to develop a meaningful research question and then what to do with it?
Sure. I should first point out that your most important reference point here is going to be the assignment that you're working on. Typically, your instructor will give you guidance about what the nature of your research question should be, what type of materials you should use in trying to answer it, and how much of your own analysis versus merely summarizing the work of others you will need to do. That said, in general, you want to aim to be concise and specific in the framing of your research question. This will help you in two ways. First, it will allow you to select a focused set of keywords to use in searching, which will help you avoid being overwhelmed by the amount of information that you find. Secondly, being specific will make it easier for you to say something coherent and meaningful in the small amount of space or time available to you in a paper or presentation. Let's say, for example, that you need to write a paper on an information technology trend. Rather than starting with a research question like, what are some information technology trends? It would be preferable to start with something more particular, like, what are some technology trends affecting smartphones? Or the assignment allowed for it, or if the assignment is allowed for it, something still more specific, like, what are some trends related to cybersecurity threats that are likely to affect smartphone users? To be efficient, to be as specific and narrow in the framing of your research question as the assignment allows.
And once you've compiled a list of likely sources, you might benefit from viewing one of our previous videos in this series, Read Before You Write. That video will give you some tips and tricks for managing the sources you find. After you've evaluated and organized those sources, you can begin your pre-writing, your outlining, your free writing, your note-taking. As you begin putting your thoughts into words and sentences and paragraphs, don't be surprised if new questions arise. It's not unusual to conduct more research at this stage. Don't get discouraged. As we noted above, research and writing are intertwined in meaningful ways. You will go back and forth between the two. As you progress, you should not view that as a step backwards. Further refining your knowledge, which is much more likely to result in an effective writing experience. The EWC has another video in this series devoted to the intricacies of the writing process, which you can view here. So we won't cover everything in the process right now. Instead, let's pivot to what most people think of when they see academic honesty, which is citations. Ed, can you speak to why citing is important in both academic life and professional?
Sure. As a student, your most immediate concern is not committing plagiarism. If you use another author's words or ideas, you need to give them credit. In college writing, citation is the way that you do this. Citations are useful for a number of other things as well. As a reader, they allow an article or book to serve as a research tool for you, pointing you to other useful material on the topic that you are reading via their reference lists. If you begin writing professionally, citations ensure that you are given credit by others for your work when your ideas are used, and to help make your name and work more visible to others in your field. If you are teaching in a college or university, citations of your work in scholarly publications is one metric that will be used in making decisions about promotion and tenure. Your professors know more than you do, and this matters when it comes to time to grading. You will often be asked to take a position or perform analysis of a problem in research assignments in your classes and to back up your assertions with evidence from journal articles and other research materials. Your professors will typically be active professionals in the field that they are teaching in, engaged with its literature to varying degrees, and likely to have been engaged for quite some time. As a result, you need to take time to look at a good amount of material when you are doing research for an assignment, to read it carefully, and at times, to be aware of different perspectives and opinions within a field about a particular question or issue. Your professors will be and will be able to judge the quality of your research by the conclusions that you draw from it.
And that brings us back to our overarching point. Being responsible in your research means meaningfully engaging with your field of study. The assignments you complete as a student might seem disconnected from one another. The skills you learn through each experience carry over from one circumstance to the next. When you take your role as a researcher and writer seriously, you won't just improve as a student, you will become an informed, contributing member of your professional community. Learning how to find the most relevant, high-quality information is part of that process. Evaluating that information for your specific needs is part of that process. Attributing the information to the proper sources via citations is part of that process. Using those sources to create new information in the form of your own writing about a problem in need of an informed solution is part of that process. So think big picture. Assignment, ask yourself how this fits into your larger goals as a student seeking a degree and a professional seeking career advancement. And don't be afraid to ask your professors the same questions. Your professors, like the Effective Writing Center and the library, are here to help you succeed. So before we wrap this evening's workshop, we'll take a moment now to answer any questions that you might have. And I'll pause for half a minute or so because there's a bit of a delay between Ed and I and the rest of you viewing this in YouTube Live. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions at the moment, but if you're viewing this video later, feel free to post a question either in YouTube below where the video is housed or in our Google Plus community, or you can contact the library or the Effective Writing Center at the URLs provided here. You can become a member on Google Plus by going to the Google Plus communities and joining up with the Effective Writing Center. You can subscribe to this channel on YouTube and see all of our videos very easily. And you can email the Writing Center at writingcenter@umc.edu if you have any questions at all. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up for this evening?
No, Dan, I think we pretty much covered it.
Okay, well, I want to thank Ed O'Donnell for joining us tonight. I want to thank Ryan Shepard for working with us on creating this material. The EWC's third Thursday workshop series will return in September. Until then, please feel free to contact us in any of the ways provided here. And if you're taking classes over the summer, we hope that you will use the Writing Center services and the library services to further enhance your learning and your student success. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.